Welcome to Sunlighten Spotlight. I am Connie Zack, co-owner of Sunlighten, and today I have a very, very special guest who is also, I would call her a very special friend. Joie Risk. She is the managing director of Sunlighten's European operations. Joie has a very impressive background as well as a passion for nutrition and natural health. She has an amazing ability to combine strong vision with bravery to make that vision a reality. She was a former accountant for PricewaterhouseCoopers and has a personal story about how Sunlighten's infrared helped her transform her life. And I can't wait to dig in and hear more. Welcome, Joie.
Hi, Connie. It's so good to connect with you and walk down memory lane together.
I know. I've been reflecting on this and just brings back such beautiful memories of everything. So why don't we get started and you share just from the very beginning of first, before we get to this enlightened aspect, share your personal story with everyone.
Yeah, so I think where this all started was really, I was a second-time mum, and I didn't quite bounce back at the time as how I did with my first child, and I was really unwell, probably for the first time in my life, and I wasn't sleeping, but that was due to a lot of factors. So I had a lot of anxiety, I was overweight. And so I was really looking to get to the bottom of, what was happening for me. And at the time I was pursuing this passion for natural health. I was studying at the College of Naturopathic Medicine here in London, about therapeutic nutrition. And I came across infrared saunas. And I decided luckily stars were aligned. There was a little clinic at the time around the corner from my house that had a Sunlighten in their sauna. And I tried this infrared sauna. And I tried a lot of things up until this point to help with the sleep. I'd had all sorts of tests done. I'd found that I was very low in minerals, and I'd supplemented with those, and that helped to some degree, but not really. I tried exercise. I tried just cleaning up my sleep hygiene, and I'll never forget. People think I'm exaggerating. I'll never forget walking out of my first Sunlighten sauna experience. I genuinely walked out and thought, oh my goodness, what was this? I'd been a very big user of saunas my whole life, traditional saunas. In Australia, you have this ocean swimming and sauna experience that people do all the time. But this was really different. And I walked out, I felt like I was walking on air. I had so much energy. I had, lost a lot of that anxiety for a moment. And then I remember that night, it was like 7:00, and I'd had this very unusual feeling I felt sleepy. And I noticed it because I hadn't felt that kind of sleepiness in the evening for quite some time. And so I knew it was a sauna because that was the only thing I had been doing differently. So I started to go back, and I started to go 2 to 3 times a week. And it was just a huge revelation for me. It was a game changer. It just helped me to feel less stressed. It helped me to lose, I just lost inches very easily. And I realized it was very much helping with my sleep. I was able to fall asleep. I was able to stay asleep, and everything felt a lot better. So about a month into this, I was like, okay, this is huge. I realized that there wasn't much of this available to people in London. And so basically this whole story began there.
Yeah. So when you say you felt sleepy, this was one of the first times. Is that what you said? This was one of the first times that you had that kind of oh my gosh, and what went through your head? Tell me more about that piece.
Yeah. I think that I was struggling because I was very tired prior to that, and I had this insomnia. My body was just resisting sleep up until that point. And I don't know, you know, the feeling when you're jet lagged, all of a sudden you must sleep. And it wasn't as strong as that, of course. But looking back on it, I feel like it somehow was regulating my circadian rhythm. Like I was, you know, my sleep drive or whatever it was there, and I felt like I could relax. And I've thought about it a lot of times over the years, and I think it's something to do with the circadian rhythms. It's something to do with reducing down cortisol, or just helping me be less anxious, really. But it really had shocked me at that time. I really genuinely stopped and thought, oh, wow, like this is, I feel sleepy, you know, and I wasn't expecting that as one of the benefits. I was going in there for detoxification. I was going in there for, you know, a heat experience. I wasn't expecting to have any impact on sleep.
Yeah, I think what people, you know, I've heard this story so many times from over the years from different people about just the power of how Sunlighten's product can help you fall asleep, you know, faster, and you feel so rested. You know, people now can track it on their watch, you know, their quality of sleeping, their sleep score, and it's definitely increased with Sunlighten's. And I think one of the things that, getting off task for a second, but I just want to, you know, state to the listeners is a lot of times so much is connected in your body. So when your goal is detoxification, right? Like you just said, you know, but you ended up with sleep. Well, a lot of times the two are connected. So one of the reasons that you're struggling with sleep is because your body is carrying around things that are making it heavier and that make it more difficult to unwind and to purge and to, you know, have that restful sleep. So you know, I think agree with you, it's probably a combination of different factors. Is now we know some more about how the brain and regulating the core temperature and regulating the, you know, all, I mean, we have so much science on it, but I would just wanted to pull through that connection between your sweat experience, having the toxins removed, and then you were lighter and your body was like, oh, wow, now I can just kind of relax and fall asleep. So anyway, I'm so glad that you had that experience, because that led to
life changing.
Life changing. Yes, completely.
Genuinely,
So share, because this is such, you know, when I mentioned in the intro about when I was reflecting on what I think about you, in addition to your impressive resume, professional resume, I think one of the things I'm just, you know, continually impressed with is, you know, your ability to think big and think, okay, you know, I want to do this, and then put the plan in place to actually make it happen. And a lot of people struggle with that. And so I think you're very inspirational, and your story is inspirational to the listeners in, you know, hey, I can do that too, you know? So, you know, take us through the memory lane with how, I mean, I remember you took the train, you know, to connect with us in that first meet. Amy, I don't want to like tell your story, but I'd love you to share why you reached out to Sunlighten, and then, you know, take it from there.
Yeah. So I think that after this experience and realizing that there seemed to be in the US, you know, Sunlighten had you know, a much bigger presence, and actually from native Australia, that you were there. I was intrigued as to why this wasn't yet huge in the UK, and especially in a place where they have, you know, we have damp, we have cold, you know, for me it was very much a natural fit. So I spent some time actually looking around the world at different sauna brands. And I went to Austria, I went to Germany, I met with various companies, and then I met with, I went on a trip to Australia actually, and I was there for one Christmas visiting family during this period, and I walked into the Sunlighten office in Australia. And I was very lucky because I bumped into Rose, who was a huge part of the Australian business at the time. And she did an incredible job to talk me through Sunlighten's offering, and I tried it there as well. And I guess I only tried the signature in London, and so I tried the Impulse. And it just really cemented for me in terms of technology, in terms of the values of the company, the way the sauna is put together, the magnet seal, that this was by far, the best brand to work with. And really at the time, my vision had been to set up little places that people could potentially use them in London, like I had experienced, but have it much more accessible. And so I then asked to, I reached out to Aaron, and it was really interesting conversation, actually, I remember. So we had this very fast conversation, and he invited me to come to Kansas to have a meeting. And I couldn't make it there at the time. I had obviously had this young daughter, but again, it's sort of very serendipitous. We ended up meeting in France. Sorry, it was Belgium, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I caught a train to get there from London to have literally to meet with you guys for a 2-hour meeting over breakfast, which was absolutely incredible. And we I really wanted to share my passion and my vision for what I felt could be in the UK and Europe for Sunlighten. And I just felt so strongly at the time, and I feel just as strongly, and actually it's becoming reality, that Sunlighten as a wellness brand just deserves to stand alongside these, wellness giants that we have right now in the world, as a recovery tool and a health tool that people should be in every day. And so, very early on, that was my passion, that was my mission, that everybody in the UK and Europe should have access to a Sunlighten every day, or, in their life, from a mental, emotional, physical, all aspects. So we had that amazing meeting, and then, I'm not going to say it wasn't sort of I guess the timing was a little bit different, and it took a little while to get from that meeting to where we are today. Obviously, there was a lot of factors to come into play, and it had to be the right time for everybody. But eventually, in September 2019, we launched, which was amazing. So it was little old me in an office in London. I was quickly joined by Praveen, who was a huge fan of Sunlighten from Australia. She knew the brand, and now we're a team of 10, which is, it's so satisfying. And, I sit there and listen to the sales calls every day and just think, wow, I just love that we're out there sharing what Sunlighten is all about, and what, infrared therapy should really be about.
What a great story. And thank you so much for sharing that. And, you make it sound so easy when, I remember it just, we had a lot of different iterations. And the interesting thing is we started when we spent so much time in Belgium talking about, like you said, a commercial location, right? Like, we never discussed the fact that you would become the managing director of Sunlight's European operations. Like, so it's just evolved and, manifested into this, wonderful, business that you've developed, which was, I remember you saying, it does not make sense to me that the London and the UK and that Europe does not have Sunlighten in every business on every corner, because our market and our environment, lends to receive the benefits of Sunlighten's technology. Yeah. So my question is, as you were, you started this, and Praveen started, you're in this office by just the two of you. Take us through, was there something, because I remember those days in our basement, was there something that kept you going every day, when it's a really big mountain, to climb, just you and really, it's really just you. I mean, Praveen was there, but I mean, you're ultimately responsible, for everything. What would you say to that?
You know, I'm not going to say a lot of people thought I was crazy, but a lot of people didn't get it. I'll be
Right.
honest. A lot of people, like friends and family, they didn't understand, what is this infrared thing? Like, how can you have so much certainty? I think there was definitely difficult times, times that we had to really get really creative to get the business to where it is now. I would say I just never, ever wavered from the absolute certainty that this would be huge and that people, would find it, and that the people who were super interested in health and wellness and the athletes and the celebrities and everybody would find it and know about it and learn about it and fully understand it, and it would grow. I didn't doubt that for a minute. How we did that was a different thing, and we had to figure that out along the way. But the vision was always the same. That being said, I did have, the support of yourself and Aaron. I'm so grateful for that. I also had the support of the entire team in Kansas, and it's been so good. Like, one of the best parts of this process, it's been so great to have that belonging, to really, you've got such a rock star team over there. And I've loved every visit that I've had, and just soaking up everybody's energy and everyone's enthusiasm and positivity, and I've learnt a lot from it as well. So yeah, I would say it's just that certainty, which got me personally through difficult times.
Yeah, I would, echo that when we were starting, because people thought we were crazy. They didn't understand. We would leave a movie theater to take a call with our friends, like, and then we would come back and we're like, had everybody's phone number. I mean, the phone number and everything on that napkin. It's like, what are you guys doing? This is crazy. Like, you're like P&G people, like, and you're like leaving a movie theater and using napkin as paper, like, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, we got it. I captured all the information. This person needs us.
Yep.
So, moving on to, I want to hear, so you believed, yeah, it's the certainty, which I 100% get. Take us through, as you think of an obstacle or a challenge or something that, either at the beginning or throughout the last, 4 years, that was pretty big, and just walk us through that. I would love to hear that.
I think that at different times we've had different challenges. Probably, for me personally, it's been having enough support on the team and finding the right people, and sort of letting go, because I guess I've done every role in the company, and then I hadn't had that experience before, honestly, to grow to such a stage that literally every part of my role, then I've been, not every part, not yet, but I've been able to delegate, and I've had to, for us to grow. But it's good to be on the other side.
Tell us about, I'm picturing that person coming in. Tell us about your culture there. I loved your challenge that you guys sent over when we were doing the, I mean, that, and because then we got, because you've been here, but we in the United States got a little taste of the special sauce and the special energy that you have created, for your team, which a lot of people are looking for. Hiring right now is really difficult because everybody's in different spots, but the one thing that is consistent, at least in the United States, is people really care about the culture. They care about the people that work there. They want to belong and be supported and be part of a community. That's at least the way it is in the United States.
Yeah.
And it looked like, from your challenge, which you can tell about in a second, that you gave to the United States, was very, when everybody was around, it looked your culture looked super, super fun, enjoyable, like a place that I would want to go and stay and never leave.
Oh.
So tell everybody more about your culture.
Yeah, I think, listen, I'm so grateful every day for the people on our team. And they, oh gosh, they're just they're just an incredible bunch of people who, of course, like very talented at what they do. But I think really on a values level, we're very similar. We are, intensely passionate about the customer and about them getting what they need. We will, sometimes we will, put aside what we need to help the customer. So if it means they don't, for example, they don't have budget for ours, we will tell them, maybe, and they want to buy a very cheap, unsafe model of something on the market. We'll advise them, let's just don't buy anything, maybe just use a traditional sauna or whatever the case may be. So I think we're intensely customer centric, I would say. We're very, very competitive, but in a good way. It is a competitive marketplace as well in Europe, and I have competitors all day long trying to poach our staff. I think they're also very knowledgeable. They also are just willing to go the extra mile for the company, as well as for the client. And I think the clients really, really pick up on it. And I've had the feedback so many times from customers that, the reason why we're going for you is because of the time that you've taken to understand my situation, and no one else has done that. And it makes me really, really proud. So I think that, everyone kind of leads with their heart, and they just do their absolute best. So, as we grow, it would be really important to maintain that culture as much as possible. And that's what I'm just very focused on.
Yeah, it is very important. But, you exemplify all of those characteristics. So, I'm sure that your energy transcends, when you're meeting with people. And I have no doubts that you'll continue as you grow to attract that same, type of just positive, willing to do whatever it takes, customer centric. I mean, that is just so important, to Sunlighten, to the brand, to all of us here. It's, we want to make a difference. We want people to feel better and be happier. And it's all about, the customer. When you were talking, one of the things, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, but that's also part of the reason that, I was more than happy to join, and I was so excited to join. And I'd been self-employed for a very long time. And, I genuinely, coming on board as a managing director of a company, it was really down to how I, yourself and Aaron and, those values that you so openly displayed, and I knew that you'd built in the company. So that's what attracted me. So I'm glad that I was able to translate that into our team as well.
Yeah, no, you translated it beautifully. Congratulations on that. One of the things I was going to say, just building on, the way you were approaching things and my memories of your successes. I loved how you, and I think this transcends, this character trait transcends over to your business today, which is why I wanted to bring it up, is you asked so many questions. And you did it with really, truly, a lot of times people ask questions, but they don't really listen to the answer. And you can kind of tell whether or not they're really engaged in the topic. And you were hungry, and you asked, and you were so open to receiving it. You were incredibly humble, and just willing to soak in all of the responses. And then, you took all of the answers and, created your own model. But I think that's what you and your team do. I know that's what you guys do so well, in the UK and Europe, is you ask those questions to the customers of what's going on in your life. How did you hear about Sunlighten? Why infrared? And really dig into that heart-centered, like, we want you to feel better. If it's not today, it's later, but it needs to be with Sunlighten's proven product. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Absolutely. And, customers, when they're not expecting that most of the time, especially in the UK. I mean, we've all heard, the US sellers on the phone, and I guess, you know, in the early days, some of the sellers here felt that actually UK customers are a little bit more reserved, and you know, in some cases that can be true. And so they're not expecting us to be so invested in their wellness journey, and at first they can be a bit resistant, but most of the time we're able to persist, and then they become really, you know, close friends, I guess, and they're always checking in with us, because they really appreciate that. And you know, we get asked for other recommendations for other products and protocols and partners, and I think that's also the most rewarding part. So we're really building that relationship, and the customers love it.
That's phenomenal. So let's talk a little bit about infrared, because we kind of dove right into the business story and everything, which is fantastic. But for those people who are listening who or don't even, I mean, you know, you shared your story as far as how, you know, bettered your sleep. So two things. So one, I'd love to hear more from you on any other benefits, any other transformations that happened in your body from adopting Sunlighten's product into your lifestyle. And then number two, what are all the questions that you get from customers in the UK so that we can help, you know, educate and answer questions that probably people are having right now as they're watching?
Okay. So in terms of other benefits, I remember actually a really interesting one, which I've also unpacked over the years because I've started to really understand it. But when I was in the sauna in those early days, I would find that I would get some incredible creative ideas just pop up in my brain after 15 minutes of being in the sauna. And but you know, this was consistently happening. So you know, I'd get, you know, it was just, that was incredible for me. And I think that now I correlate that to being, you know, I guess it was a meditative state, like in my parasympathetic was there, and I was just really in a position to receive like thoughts and creativity. The other thing is, I am, you know, my mind is very busy. I'm always going at 1,000 miles an hour. And so for me personally, helping me to be less stressed and more centered was a game changer. And, you know, sleep and reduction in my stress levels is something that's really what personally made the biggest difference in my life. So it enabled me to be more present and just help my nervous system, really. So yeah, I'd say that was the most, you know, the other benefits that I felt. The other question about, the questions that we get really in the UK, the main ones that we're starting to get a lot more is, you know, people may have heard of infrared now, but what they really don't understand is, you know, why they should choose infrared over traditional. That's one of the first questions. And you know, how easy is it for them to have this as part of their lifestyle? They're obviously assuming that, you know, like a traditional sauna, it's going to be quite difficult for them to implement in their home. So that's been one of the first things. And then really it's around, you know, how can it help detoxification? How does it actually work? And then how does it really help with various other, you know, autoimmune conditions is what we hear a lot of here in the UK. So how can it help with the symptoms of autoimmune conditions is a really big one as well.
And Sunlighten US on the autoimmune, you know, we work with a lot of autoimmune, you know, experts and influencers here in the United States, like Dr. Amy Myers, you know, just to mention one. I mean, there's many of them. As far as on the autoimmune in England, are there any influencers or medical professionals that you're working with on that side?
We work with a few functional medicine practitioners. They do obviously touch on some autoimmune conditions. At this stage, we're not talking to anyone who's completely focused on autoimmune. But we have some partners that we work with and doctors who are very specialists in cancer, like functional medicine for cancer and nutrition, as well as a lot of biohackers who are quite prominent here in the UK. We work with currently as partners, but we are growing our partner network here in the UK.
Can you give a name of a biohacker that you work with? And because I mean, like I love that space so much,
Yeah.
you know, in the United States. And I mean, if we can have a hack in anything, like I just want to share it. You know, are there specific influencers or one big influencer in the UK that is in that space that you want to share?
Yeah, so there are a couple. So actually, we're really fortunate to have two females, and we've got one male biohacker. So Tim Gray is known as the UK's most famous biohacker, and he set up an event called the Health Optimization Summit in the UK. So he's probably the most well-known in the UK, who is a partner of ours. We also have Angela Foster, who does a lot of performance training for women, not actual exercise, but performance. She deals with. Sorry, I'm having a blank now. She has a podcast for biohacking for women specifically.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And we have
need to do that.
an incredible women's nutritionist called Pippa Campbell as well, that we work with quite a bit. So yeah.
And I think the HOS, the Health Optimization Summit, was that the one that you went to back in 2019, or maybe, well, it wouldn't be 2020, but 2019, like right after you launched, right?
That's right. So I attended the very, very first HOS as an individual. We weren't quite ready to exhibit there, and due to COVID, it didn't happen next year. But we, as a team, went in 2022 and had an incredible few days. We met so many amazing partners. We also signed a new incredible partner who is based in Portugal. He's a biodentist.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's called Dr. Miguel Stanley, who is doing incredible things in the biodentistry world. So it's a great event. One of the most important partners at this point is Dr. Tamsin Lewis, who is a biohacker / functional medicine doctor here in the UK. Although she spent the last year or so out in Ibiza setting up a longevity clinic called the Rose Bar, which is actually in conjunction with Dr. Mark Hyman. So she set that up. We have one of our saunas out there now in Ibiza. It's an incredible hotel and wellness space that they set out there. And so yeah, she's a huge fan of Sunlighten and uses our sauna wherever she goes in Europe. So yeah, they're the main ones at this stage.
Oh, that's fantastic. That you're, working with such, important, that topic to me is, if you can find a way to do things, naturally without side effects in the comfort of your own home and feel better and live. I love the whole longevity piece.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of, like Dr. Hyman, and we work with Dr. Dan Miller here, who, wants to open some longevity studios. And that is so important because we are all going to live longer. Like I 100% have mental clarity on that. It's our choice what those extra years are going to look and feel like, because it's going to happen. But how we show up for the longevity piece and the choices we make in our lifestyles on, how we eat and how we move and, how we sauna, all of those, what we put in our body, how we're working on getting the bad stuff out of our body, will be a key, key pillar in my opinion, this is Connie Zack, but I'm not, an expert in this space. I feel strongly that, now is the time to make the choices, right? It's not when you have to go to a functional medicine doctor and figure out, oh no, what's going on? It's now, because then, you can feel better and do more what you love to do.
Absolutely. And, early on in this journey, I did speak to people who unfortunately had been diagnosed with all sorts of terminal illnesses. And it was really confronting, and it really hit home just how imperative it is that we work on prevention. And it's really informed a lot of, how we talk to customers about this, and how we get this across, because speaking to people day in, day out, it is very confronting. But I feel that there is growing awareness. And I think that also all of these ways to live longer, better are becoming a lot more accessible as well. Yes. It's a long journey.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I wanted to go back on before we wrap up is just to touch on that. The most common question that you said, in the UK, of talking about infrared versus traditional, and give my 2 cents on to kind of simplify on why, if somebody's like, I don't, I'm familiar with the traditional, which I call it the hot air, right? It's a very hot cabin.
Yeah.
And it's great. And you go in, you get hot really quickly and you sweat. And then typically people don't stay in there that long, and then they get out. Infrared is a different type of energy, where the wavelength is focusing on your body itself and the cells inside your body, versus the air that's inside the cabin. So when you go into traditional, you instantly feel hot, because the wavelength from the traditional energy is in the air, and you are responding to the heat in the cabin. So you're hot. So that's for sure. When you go inside a Sunlighten infrared sauna, the energy connects with your body, and it's working with your cells, depending on which wavelength, which we won't go into today, but whether it's far, mid, or near, it's going to be absorbed or penetrated in a different way. And it's going to transform your cells, vibrate your water molecules. That's where you get this increased energy and mental clarity. I love that you said it, because I find myself, I always forget, and I need to figure out a way to make myself remember, but for some reason I forget to bring a pad of paper when I go in, because, I don't know how much people listen, like when I use my sauna, but I mean, just because my head, I'm like, oh my God, we need to do this and this and this and this and this. And I figured out that, and I figured out that. And so, like, I'm constantly, wanting, I need to talk to this person about this. So it's really, it's not instant, I would say, but it really does. It's pretty close. Like, I'm in there, and I always go in there with the intent to, relax, and I end up, I'm like, oh my, I go crazy with my head. So those are, and then the other difference, tangible, just simple difference, is I talked about the time. Usually in a traditional sauna, you spend, I mean, everybody's different, 10, 20, minutes in there. Sometimes people, less, sometimes a little more. But in Sunlighten's, really the, tipping point, the kind of the, I would call it the gold standard, where you really want to be, is at that 40-minute range.
Right.
And a lot of people would say, if they're, listening to this, oh, wow, it would be really hard for me to stay in a traditional sauna that long. So, I always say, our life that we choose to live is meant to be enjoyed, not endured. It shouldn't be this just arduous, painful, although we all have experienced all that, but choose things that are going to, make it a little bit more enjoying. And our sauna experience is similar. It should be a experience that you want to do again and again and again.
Absolutely.
So that was longer than I wanted to say for infrared versus traditional, but I did want to touch on that topic to make sure to answer that if anybody was like, well, what is the difference between the two?
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's a real, thank you so much for explaining it, so much better than even I could. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be a difficult, 20 minutes in the sauna. Actually, you can get all the benefits with it being enjoyable. But I think people just need to shift their perception a little bit of their experience.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So on the benefits, that was the other piece I wanted to expand on before we wrap up Sunlighten Spotlight is, so we touched on sleep, we touched on detox, you touched on the autoimmune.
Yeah.
There anything else, especially I'd love to hear, from your world, in Europe, the feedback from people, what are what are they saying that are the biggest results, the biggest impact that Sunlighten's technology has made on their life?
Oh, some of the most incredible feedback I've had is around pain. So my very first sauna that I ever sold was to a woman with rheumatoid arthritis, and she was someone who was in hospital a couple times a week with issues to do with her rheumatoid arthritis. She had a young child, and she was really suffering from joint pain, and and then using the sauna, she just went from, I don't know, pain of about, on a scale of 1 to 10, of about 10 to about a 2, basically overnight, having used the sauna. And so pain relief has been some incredible feedback. Sleep, so from a lot of the health optimizers, biohackers, again, it wasn't something that they necessarily knew would happen, but they've reported to us from their sleep trackers, great resting heart rate variability and deep sleep percentages on their sleep trackers, with great improvements, which is directly correlated with sauna use. And we've had incredible feedback from people using the saunas for muscle recovery as well. So we've had quite a lot of athletes recently use our sauna and just say that actually, their recovery from games and their ability to train and sort of prevent, injury, in their view, was just game changing. So, and yeah, just really the experience, I think it's bringing, I've had also this feedback that, oh my gosh, it's like bringing this spa experience into my home. I'm able to put my life outside this, leave it outside the sauna for a while and just really focus on myself. So, and again, we talk to the customers about these benefits, and then it's not until they've experienced them that they come back to us and just share that. So
that's my favorite part about our business, is people sharing their story, sharing their journey, sharing their story, explaining how Sunlighten has played a role in where they are today. And I mean, that just never gets old to me. Like I love it so much, and I could watch. I mean, I've watched our videos that our team has done over and over and over again, because it fuels me. It pumps me up. Yeah, they're amazing. Okay, I have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you get back. Well, actually, it's in the evening there. So, so people here in the United States, they love protocols, and they love to know, like, what do other people do and how do they use it? So I'd love you to share your personal routine with your Sunlighten sauna.
Okay, so what I like to do is I will sometimes I'll use a rebounder, or if I've not exercised before or gone for a run before, I'll actually jump on the rebounder before going into the sauna. I find that really helps to get the detox happening a lot faster. And then I will then use a sauna. I personally hydrate with just salty water. I've used some coconut waters in the sauna, but I'm pretty simple actually. I'll just do that for my hydration while I'm in there. And then I normally sauna in the evening. I find that it just helps me to then sort of switch, like transition from the day. I know people have various protocols where they use it in the morning and in the evening, or just prefer the morning. But for me, what works really well is, I go home, I turn on the sauna, and then that signals to me that it's time to relax. And then, I don't actually shower after the sauna. I find that I like that I'm sort of warmed up from the inside, and I then just, I go to sleep after that. So I love the fact that even if I'm really tired and I've had a really intense day, that feel after that, I feel quite energized, but then still rested. That sounds really weird, but it puts me in a really good mindset for the evening after that.
Yeah, I use that exact verbiage with people all the time, and I actually say, I know that sounds like this that sounds weird how you get energy, but yet if you can still go to sleep because you're relaxed, but it's, kind of similar to back to that mental clarity as you feel lighter,
Yes.
right? So you
It's just
feel
like
like
it's cleaning something. It's kind of
right. So that's the energy of, oh, I'm not so heavy in more
yes.
ways than one. Like there's a million ways to describe heavy. So
Mm.
okay. So last question from me is what's up for the future? So 2023 for Sunlighten in Europe, like any plans that you want to share, anything that's on the horizon that people would be interested in?
Our commercial business post COVID has been continually growing, and we're really excited. We have, I don't know, we have about 60 locations across the UK at the moment, and so we'll continue to grow our commercial locations. Also, what's really exciting is that we are growing our custom division. So we're doing a lot more custom saunas at the moment, and that's something that was, not on the radar when I joined. So
Right.
that is super exciting.
Yeah, custom saunas are incredible. I mean, yeah, I just can't. I love the pictures. I love what we've done.
Yeah.
It's so cool. That's great that you guys are right there with us growing that too. Just the 60 alone, because I remember back in Belgium, you're like, there's no saunas here, like there's no infrared, and like how can that be? And to go from 0 to 60 in 3+ years,
Yeah.
and then mind you, COVID is thrown into there, so it's just really incredible what you have done, and I know you focus on the consumer, which is, I know, one of the reasons that you've grown so much, as far as taking care of them. But congratulations on all your success, and is there anything else that you want to share before we close?
No, I just really wanted to say that, I really appreciate the opportunity from yourself and Aaron. Really, you put a lot of faith in me, and I'm very grateful to you. And, this is pretty much my dream role. And so I'm just very, very grateful for the opportunity. And I just can't wait to see what the future brings.
Me too. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who is, listening or watching. And as always, I want to make sure, like, if you have questions, anything, make sure and reach out. We absolutely will get them answered, and we will get back to you, as we want to make sure that you're taken care of. So thank you so much for enjoying
Connie.
Sunlight and Spotlight. Thanks, Joie.
Thank you.